Today's Elko Live is an encore program featuring our Elko City Fire Chief, James Johnston. Now, this program was first aired on September 17th and does reference a rural EMS conference that was held last weekend. But the chief is also talking about fall fire safety and the Elko City Fire Department's open house, which is planned for October during National Fire Prevention Awareness Month. Thank you for choosing to listen to today's encore edition of Elko Live on KELK. We have our Fire Chief, James Johnston, joining us in studio. And Chief, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for making time on another busy week.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate that you invite us and let us talk about some city fire stuff. So, working together to save lives.
Yes,
right, yeah.
Working together to save lives, because we have firefighters. We do have, people locally who are training as paramedics, working on the ambulance service. It's expanded out to Spring Creek. So.
Yeah, and it always seems like it's never enough, right? Like one of the biggest things you think about is the bus wreck that occurred outside of Carlin, and how many people were needed for that one single incident. And it never seems to be enough. We always have to try to expand our horizon and make sure we have enough responders for the amount of risk we have in our area.
We're so lucky to have air ambulance too. I mean, as you just mentioned them, they're part of this EMS conference.
Yeah, absolutely. MedX and Reach, those guys, they're great collaborators as well. MedX is putting on their mental health conference tomorrow night, which has just been awesome to see them bring in and kind of work together with the hospital and a lot of different agencies that provide mental health, and it's a huge amount of our calls. And so we're not really well trained in that area. We don't have a lot of certification or knowledge, but we definitely go on a lot of calls.
Chief Johnston, you're going to be teaching a class on Friday. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm doing EMS Hazmat Command and Control class, so it should be super exciting.
Yes.
But it should be good. There's some new stuff that I'm going to dive into, especially when it talks about from like a responder area, what to look for, how to I call it upstream think. So get ahead of the curve before it gets worse.
Mm-hmm. I mean, because, we had a train derailment not that long ago, February this year. It could have been so much worse. We talk about that all the time, but that could have been an incident where you had injuries, and then who knows what kind of cargo could have breached.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hate to say, we're lucky. And that was one of the things we talked about too. It's not good to be lucky. It's good to be good. You need to have everything ready to go and have your decision makers understand what the risk is. And we definitely lucked out on that one, because if it had really impacted the bridge, or we had some type of hazardous material spill into the river, there were a lot of different scenarios that could have made that incident a lot worse than what it was.
And that's why, again, careful planning goes into something that we hope will never happen. But that's why we have disaster drills. You have training using actual props. I know you had some airport rescue firefighting training recently.
Yeah, and we actually just went through our RAD training, our radiation training, with the Department of Energy that came and hosted that for the last week. That was really cool because they had a lot of live agent, which we haven't had that in our area. So they brought in the whip trucks, which is how they transport the radiation through our community, because we are a radiation route. And we do get some type of funding for our monitors. And it was an amazing experience to go through that and make sure all our responders understand.
Oh, good. Do you feel like our community, I mean, these are on the interstate, right? These trucks are on the rail, both, or?
Yeah,
okay.
Mostly interstate, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of times we don't even know that they're going through. So I guess the best thing for the public to understand is they're well protected, and the government does a really good job of making sure that they're in the best possible transportation truck available for them to get.
Now, since we're not storing nuclear waste in Nevada, is that going on to New Mexico, or?
They don't like to tell us exactly how it goes through, but I know that they are transporting waste, so it most likely will. I'm sure probably New Mexico, and then coming from California as well.
Oh, that's right. They mix up the routes too. Yeah. That's what you're saying.
Yep.
So, well, good to know that we're included in that training, because again, that's really important. And that also brings up the topic of, say, evacuation, Chief. And we saw this happen in Reno with those huge wildfires, the Davis fire last week.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone was paying attention to the messaging, but they did a very, very good job on getting what needed to happen and where they wanted people to go. And I hate plugging private industry, but there's a program they use called Perimeters. And what they can do is they can go to a map and look up an area, create a fence, and then it sends everybody a message in that area where to go. And then also they post it online too, so you can just click on it and then it gives you an evacuation route on how to get to the nearest point or where they want you to go. We're working on getting that for us. Yeah, Lee Cabanis, our county emergency manager, along with the other deputy emergency managers, Matt Peterson and Chris McCann, we're all working together to try to get that for our county. Washoe got it on a grant, so we're kind of looking at that same one to try to get here because it is very valuable, and not just for wildland fire, but for any incident that you want to evacuate for.
That's good to know because we always, old school broadcasters was like, well, you get on the radio and tell everybody, but honestly, we need this technology, and because people are on their phones, and those are the devices that everybody has access to. Not everybody has access to a radio. We can help push out the message, Chief, but I'm grateful that you're working on getting that technology. So, because we're so spread out, people just wonder where to go, where to take livestock, where to take pets.
Yeah, and a lot of people take for granted our routes. They think that because we're so open, it's easy to get from point A to point B, and that trail derailment was a really good indicator that good messaging and information can help a lot.
Yep. So more to come on that. That sounds like a good plan. So when it comes to evacuation, Perimeter is the program that we might be looking forward to in the future.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Chief James Johnston is our guest today. He's our Elko City Fire Chief. And you have a special event coming up that we want to remind everyone in October.
Yep. October 3rd, we're going to have our second open house. Actually, it's probably like our fourth or fifth, but our second one in a row. How's that? We're going to open our doors up. We're going to try to get as many kids and people into our station. We're going to do some events in the park area. We're going to have food trucks, so that'll be nice, and some vendors in the apparatus bay. It was a pretty big hit last year. This year's theme is having smoke detectors work for you. So we're going to look for some partners to try to get a lot of smoke detectors. Home Depot was amazing. We handed out some extinguishers to the community, which was really cool. We did over a pallet out to the community, and we ran out like within an hour. Just posted on Facebook, see how many hits we could get, and
they were gone.
The community responded. It was really cool to actually meet them too. It was cool that some people never even been to the firehouse, so it was a good experience.
Neat. So that October 3rd open house is for families, family friendly, anybody, free. They're going to have refreshments, things like that?
Yeah.
You said food truck.
Yeah, and it'll vary too. Some people bring, I think we had hot chocolate last year. We had popcorn balls, and it was Friday the 13th last year, so we kind of stuck with that theme. But this will be on the 3rd, and there's not much going on Thursday, but there's no school the next day. So
right. So take advantage of that. So that'll be at our city fire station, which if people don't know where that's located there.
911 West Idaho Street.
All right. And that is, of course, the edge of the Elko Regional Airport, which brings us to another good topic, and that is plans. Just like every good fire station around the country are always making plans. So maybe plans for a new fire station. I think that's been before the council, or at least the idea of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we got the design approved to go out to an engineer to start with that, which is pretty exciting. We're definitely in one corner of a growing city, and our response time is a little bit troubled outside of that area, so we have to be able to respond to the opposite end of the city. We're looking at a couple different locations, but until that point comes, we're all in on the design and trying to make a new headquarters, but also keeping that current station or a version of that if the FAA decides to get rid of it. They fully funded it, by the way. That station was fully funded by the FAA, and not $1 came from the taxpayer of the city of Elko, obviously federal taxes. And
so it won't be abandoned. As you mentioned, it'll be an airport facility as well. You always have to have an engine stage there.
Correct.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And we're going to try to partnership with the airport. Jim Foster's been amazing getting that plan together too, that we can keep an engine on that side of town and not lose that kind of stronghold and that anchor point over there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because as we talked about at the beginning of the program, you respond to a lot of different types of emergencies. So, yeah.
Yeah, and we are pretty good as far as the next phasing out the next couple stations. Our volunteer stations, 2, which is downtown, and then 3 on the south side of town, are really good locations to grow and get better there too. So if we can put a really good new headquarters, we'll be in pretty good shape for the next couple of years.
All right. Any timeline on your new headquarters?
No, we don't really have one yet. We're definitely gaining momentum, though, especially with a new plan and then a design phase. Once that gets ready to build, hopefully we can go out to bid soon.
Good. And you're going to hang on to those locations, proposed locations? You're not talking about those yet, or?
No, we have a couple of different ones. It was in the paper, actually, a few years ago. They looked at the area right across from the Elko smoke shop up on top by the Sinclair.
The old Howard's on the Hill.
Yep, exactly. Yep, the old golf course clubhouse.
Yep.
And which I really like. It's centrally located. We did a traffic study. We teamed up with our IFF local firefighters who came together, which was kind of nice. They have a free station locator so they can best map routes on how to get throughout your whole city and provide really good information. And that was like a 0.97 match. So it was really good area to start pushing from. But we are looking at multiple areas too, not just that one area.
Okay. And another good thing about it's got a great view, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, it does have a really good view.
Yeah. And that's not just because it's pleasant. It's because you can see when things are going down.
Yeah.
So more to come on that new fire station. And then the funding for that would come from probably, we're going to have at least a couple of new council people, I think. So coming up in the next couple of years.
Yeah. And we definitely have to, we're looking at different avenues and other than just straight taxes and trying to get maybe some grants in there as well. But it's not an easy thing to do to build a station. I know Wendover's actually doing another station. They're going to have two. So there's actually Mesquite's now building their third station. So we're a little bit behind, but I think if we get this station caught up and then maybe redo Station 3, we'll be in really good shape for a long time.
Okay, good to hear from our Chief, James Johnston, as we're looking at building a new Elko City fire station. The existing one, Station 1, is how old now?
It was built, I believe, in 97.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting up there. So it's time. And then let's talk about communications, our new E911 system. Still a lot of work to do to patch together all the emergency communications, right, Chief?
Yeah, and I will say E911 is, we went out to bid for a couple of different RFPs to get a new system that we're all on the same one, which would be heaven sent. I will say we have a ton of different frequencies and radio towers and so many different infrastructure. And then the dispatch center has to try to make that work and bring them all together. And so we really need a unified system. We talked a little about how Reno does it, and we'd really like to see something where everybody gets broadcasted to one incident and then we go to one channel. So communications, instead of being each of our own, would kind of make it a lot better, especially when we're talking about cross communications. And
it is different than it was even just a few years ago, because now we have dedicated funding, correct?
Yep. Yeah. And that's been big. And the county commissioners have kind of let that ride. They want justification, which is great, because those users are everybody that has a cell phone in our area. And I think that they expect it to be spent correctly. And the county commissioners are definitely policing that. I will tell you, everything has to be justified, especially if it's outside the perimeters of what E911 wants to do. So Lee's been amazing with the liaison between the two agencies, and it's been nice to see the transparency.
Yeah, we have an actual advisory committee for E911, and that's been in place for, I guess, almost, I don't know, it's quite a decade, but a few years now.
Yeah, I think since the creation of it. Yeah, wow. That was a part of but they answer to the county commissioners.
Yes, the buck stops there. So, and what the chief's been describing is, our emergency communications. There's state, federal, local, and I think I guess that's all. They all have to talk to each other in case of emergency.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what they're trying to juggle there. So. All right. So some other good news to report is you have more volunteers with Lee Engine Company. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and it's been quite a paradigm shift here within our last maybe 2 years. We've seen about 5 additions to that agency and so our department. And we just recently had ARF training, which is Aircraft Fire and Rescue, and they participated. We had 2 new rookies that went through ARF, and that's kind of unprecedented, which I'm pretty proud of, to see the 2 departments working really well together. So
cool.
Yeah, and they're gung-ho, and it's nice to see young firefighters wanting to do better in our community.
And you can be employed, have a different career, you can be a volunteer, you receive the training that you need as well as the equipment, Chief, and it can be a really good stepping stone for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons.
Absolutely, and we definitely like to find people that want to be firefighters with us too, right?
Yeah.
What a great feeder program to the City of Elko Fire Department is to use our volunteers. We're getting some really good people that come forward, and it's just been awesome. And then we also have the people that have been there for a long time that we depend on. So it's nice to see them kind of take them under their wing and train them and get them up to speed.
Yeah, that's always been a great tradition. Is Jamie Winrod still heading that up? Is she the one to contact?
No, she's the fire marshal right
that's
now.
Right,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
right.
Whenever we do it now, we go through HR. So everything is
perfect.
posted online, and then the job opens and closes just like a regular job.
Oh, good. Okay. So look at the city website, elkocity.com, whether you're interested in one of the full-time firefighter positions or becoming a volunteer. Super cool. And then you did say that you had some rookies from your department that they went off for training for. Yeah,
they went to Gulf Shores, Alabama for our ARF training. There's not very many facilities that you can send people to get them completely ARF certified, and we have to have that. Salt Lake used to do it, and then they shut down theirs. We used to always go to Salt Lake. However, Utah Valley has picked up their old prop, and they're going to make a brand new one, which we're hoping to partnership with them and start sending our people there, which will be a lot cheaper for the taxpayer, and then get our people up to speed with a closer facility for sure.
Because these are very specific scenarios, right, Chief? I mean, you got to do one here locally. You had some, like an old part of an aircraft, I think, that you could use for training.
Yeah, we use a traveling one. It has to be certified through the FAA. Oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and we looked at doing that ourselves, becoming a certified agency. It does take a lot more people than we have, and a little bit better facilities than we have. But it would be a huge asset for the airport to have that too. I mean, there's not very many in the West Coast at all.
Yeah, that is a neat opportunity. I'm sure you're already having conversations with Great Basin College, Dr. Amber Dinelli. She's just so excited about all the possibilities, all the training, all the collaboration, whatever. And they're great at grant writing too. So if it's not something that's currently offered, it might be something that could be in the works.
Sure.
So, I mean, how wonderful, though, for the community to have that. Because we are training, as we talked about. You can get training to become a paramedic. I think we've had fire classes at the college before. There are lots of different ways to earn credentials like you have. You have an advanced degree, don't you, Chief?
Well, almost my terminal degree, where I'm in dissertation.
You are? Well, that's fantastic.
I don't know. Congratulations.
Well, because you're still like, anytime I talk to someone who's all but dissertained, they're just like, I still have to finish that. But you'll get there.
Yeah, we'll see. Get there. Amber's been a really good help with that too. She's been through it, so she knows a lot about how to finish it. So it's just the last 3 chapters.
We need a club for you guys. We really need a support group for all but dissertained. Yes, you'll get there, Chief. But the significance of this conversation is just that there are opportunities to get higher education and to become very successful. But it's not about you personally. It's about what you bring to the department. Look how much we've grown, Chief, because of your credentials and what you have worked to achieve.
Yeah, I definitely can't say it's one person. That's for sure. It takes a team, and been pretty fortunate, especially the city of Elko's. The way they pay for your college is amazing. It's a huge benefit that I think our firefighters take advantage of. Joel just got his bachelor's degree. Ray Mowry got his bachelor's degree.
Fantastic.
Jared Rader's about ready to get his. So we definitely have a lot of people that use it, and it benefits the community. So we're very fortunate to have it.
And that's nice. And when you're at the fire station, obviously, you can use some of that time to study when you're not planning for the next trip out, right?
Yeah, so. I wish I had that much time to study.
He just checked his watch, by the way. I want you to know that I know he's got other meetings to go to. Again, the EMS Conference is September 20th and 21st. As you said, the college is handling a lot of that. We did want to spend just a little bit of time, too, Chief, reminding people that fire season continues. Even though we've had some drizzly days, some much-needed moisture, there's still quite a bit of fire danger from wildland fire or other types of fires.
Absolutely. And I will say that, again, the whole lucky over good thing. The other night when we had those high winds, we did have a fire. We had a couple, and coordinating with the county, we had 3 engines on reserve, and then the 2 that I have, and then our volunteer response, we had 6 engines on a fire immediately that knocked out a pretty good area in Bullion, and it was from a firework. So I will say,
Did you catch them?
no,
Okay.
they didn't, but they have a pretty good idea. So
It's under investigation.
right, exactly,
Yes.
and that, to me, that is just unacceptable,
That's
especially with our
unconscionable.
risk that we
Yeah.
have, and the amount of wind that occurred. We definitely were lucky that
It was like it was deliberate.
and it was right through a neighborhood, kind of an urban interface area that could definitely cause a lot of damage, and it stuck to the road. I think because of the quick response and the amount of people we put on the fire quickly. So hats off to all the people that coordinated with that. A-Shift did an amazing job pulling hose and getting everything out quickly, which we're all very fortunate for.
We do spend a lot of time talking with Clint Mothershed, a counterpart with the BLM, a fire mitigation specialist and investigator. And, we talk all the time about everything that you need to do to create defensible space. And a lot of it is about the urban interface or rural properties, Chief. But we also have these issues within the city.
Absolutely. Right. And cleaning up your own property, making sure that it's fire safe, even within the city, is probably even more so because of how tightly packed the homes are. A fire in one home can lead to a fire in the next home, especially if the yard isn't kept or if the weeds are too high. Those are easily bridge fuels that'll take one fire from one house to the next. So, and we talked about that a little bit about our code enforcement and Kirsten and Ralph, how they're doing a great job with that. That's where the reports go. Anyone that comes into us, that's kind of where we direct them. And they're on the website too. You can email them or you can call them.
It's really easy to fill out forms online, by the way, and you can just, fill in the blanks and click and send. And, it could be any concern. Say, a lot of the Tree Street homes, sad to say, some have fallen into disrepair, Chief, and maybe their owners aren't physically capable of maintaining them, but whatever the reason, there might, be a threat in the neighborhood because there's just a dried out grass growing or weeds are really tall, and that could threaten the neighborhood houses too. Right.
Yeah, just like we talked about that bridge.
Yeah. So
it usually happens from the bottom, like from grass or brush that takes it from one yard to the next. But that it seems to be that you're not as safe as you think you are simply because you live within city limits.
Yeah, and you've got a fire hydrant around. So it's important to know. Sometimes people think, oh, well, surely the fire department sees that because they drive past the same house that I do. But the city actually needs to get complaints from neighbors about these things. It's not up to our city officials. They're not going around looking for problems.
Right. And the nuisance, as we become very
painfully aware
of how that's affected our community, the nuisance laws are very strict. If someone owns the property, it's really hard to get them to do the things you need them to do, especially because our city ordinances don't really address how to handle or get rid of brush or even a condemned building, right? Like we've seen on Idaho Street, and then now the trailer park. But we're getting better. We're getting better, right? They're changing the way the ordinances are going to meet so we can better handle those situations. But right now we're kind of in a stalemate when it comes to a private ownership and the land that they have.
Mm-hmm. But the important point is that if you are in the vicinity of, or you have a concern about what's known as a nuisance property, maybe it's boarded up, maybe it's dilapidated, maybe you see, stray cats going in and out, or, worse. I mean, if it's overrun by rodents or something, I mean, that happens. Or you see these weeds and things we talked about, any kind of a nuisance or smell, bad odor coming from a place, then you want to contact the code enforcement officer, Chief?
Yep.
Okay.
And right now, I believe it's 777-0517. And Kirsten, who just got promoted to our environmental compliance officer, she's kind of been handling both until we can get that position filled. But yeah, it seems like just like what you described was exactly what was happening on South Fifth Street with that trailer park. And we're getting headway, right? They're taking out some burned trailers, and then they're landscaping a little bit better, buttoning up some electrical boxes, which we're definitely hazards to our community, but it takes action, right? It takes the ball to get moving for that to happen.
Right.
And the council has to vote on it.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not, I mean, this community, the state, this country is pretty big on property rights. So what you choose to do with your property, but then when it crosses a line and becomes a hazard or, a health hazard, a nuisance, a fire, biohazard, I think we've heard that described. But that's when the city needs to hear the complaints, because our city officials, nobody in the city is driving around looking for problems. The problems arise from the people who live in the city. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty fair to say, because again, we're not trying to infringe on the way people choose to keep their property for whatever reason. We're not telling people what color to paint their houses or any of that. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So in the closing couple minutes we have, Chief, anything else that you want to, any kind of instances or fire hazards that maybe you've seen lately or anything to remind people of?
Well, now that we're maybe shifting from a warmer season to a colder season, I hope, is that make sure your smoke detectors work. And space heaters should not be plugged into any power strips. Just remember that. If there's one thing I want everyone to remember, is put space heaters directly into a wall plug.
And the reason for that is? They'll
overpower the power strip. Yeah, they're not meant to do that. And they draw too much, and then the power strip can spark and cause a fire on its own.
Okay.
So directly into the wall. And we'll be pushing that. We even see it within city offices. We go around and make sure that everybody's complying with that, because a lot of older buildings don't have a lot of great heat. And so people use space heaters, and especially in schools and everything, which isn't bad, because a lot of them are meant, as long as they're UL code made, they're good to use within the office space, but they need to be plugged in directly into a wall. And then also, I always say unplug them before you leave too. Don't leave them plugged in.
Right. You just never know if something's going to get kicked over, or just you forget, you leave it on.
Absolutely.
All right, Chief. Well, thanks for those safety reminders. Thanks for the update. Our Elko City Fire Chief James Johnston was filling in today's Elko Live for the city program.
Thank you very much, Lori.
Thank you for listening to this Encore Elko Live broadcast. Find this and other archived editions online at elkoradio.com, where we are also streaming our stations anywhere there is internet access. Thank you for listening.